Olympic champion, I've dreamed of this moment so many times before.
Right, it's today's round 16 clash, our 6th of 8. Round of 16 is a long old round, isn't it? Tipperary's 2010 All-Ireland win, which obviously stopped the 5 in a row, which up to that point had never been done, versus Dean Rock and the GPS. Here's the first video to remind you of what happened in 2010.
One way or the other, we're going to see history made this afternoon. Either the first 5 in a row or a drive for 5 blocked for the second time in under 30 years.
Yeah, it's been very tight, a lot of hard tackling and, you know, intriguing really, not as stylish as you might have expected. No score from play so far, but still very interesting.
Huge one down towards Lara Corbin. He's got it! He's scored! Maxim has their advantage, but Eoin Larkin's raiding inside here to Power. Oh, what a goal! Back up to the forwards again, brilliantly caught by McGrath. On to Lara Corbin. They fire hurleys at it, but nobody's able to stop Lara Corbin. They race for it, breaking down here, and now McGrath has found the back of the net. As that ball is caught inside there by Patrick Marr, and it's swept in the end, and it's finished in the back of the net, and there is another one for Tipperary. It's all over, and Tipperary have won the All-Ireland dramatically.
So that was very memorable, but is Lara following Tommy around not a more memorable moment? When it comes down to it, like, that was in reeling in the ears, right? But definitely so would Lara following Tommy around. And if you were doing a reeling in the decade, then Lara following Tommy around should actually probably be the most memorable moment of the decade.
No, it's actually the exact opposite of that. The 2010 All-Ireland win is the moment that makes reeling in the years because it has crossover appeal. I think Lara following Tommy around has appeal to a lot of people who would have watched the preceding couple of years. It became a meme within sports circles.
No, you say crossover, like, people were getting married with, like, Lara and Tommy things going on.
Like, probably really strong, legitimate sports fans. Like, I think the whole Kilkenny empire being stopped for 5 in a row just had this massive national appeal. The manner in which it was done, with one of the all-time great performances in an All-Ireland final against a team that, let's face it, we hated that Kilkenny team. I know you claim that you like that Kilkenny team. You like to see these.
They were amazing.
Of course, as hurlers, they're amazing, but
and they were
villains. They were villains.
They weren't really.
Every single one of them were villains, perceived to be.
Brawley was like in his piece about Jim Gavin saying, "Oh, they blew everybody out," but they didn't. They only blew that Waterford team out. They had great games against loads of other teams along the way.
Well, the 2009 final was great.
It was a semi-final against Waterford, or a quarter-final against Waterford, that was really close. That might have even been a draw. That was sensational. I remember Sheffield basically having his hand broken and finishing out the season, of course, and probably winning an All-Star, but, like, they were attacking him. It was just amazing.
They were a brilliant team, and I think as time has passed and perhaps people have come out and you've actually got to see them as pundits and stuff like that, you start to realise that actually they're not as dislikable. And I think as hurlers, you always had huge respect for them. And
the Cork propaganda, that's you just bought into it straight away. You're like, okay, yeah, this must be true. The Stepford Wives line, oh yeah, it's true.
Nothing to do with the personalities, though. It was all to do with the edge with which they brought to proceedings.
We should have embraced that. It was class.
Maybe we should have.
They're exactly what Dublin do.
We're getting away from the point here anyway, but that, for me, the most memorable Lara Corbett moment of the decade was... the
most memorable Kilkenny moment was them being beaten.
Yes. Well, there's no question about that. Most memorable Kilkenny moment is them being beaten.
They did it 3 in a row after that. They come back to do it 3 in a row.
That is actually remarkable when you think about it. That is actually remarkable. It's almost as impressive as the 4 in a row.
Sheffield wins 10.
Yeah, they're
10 All-Ireland medals.
I would
even in our list.
To be honest with you,
taking their biggest beating.
Yeah, well,
not their biggest beating, but, like, the one that hurts the most.
For me, it'd be Lara, it'd be Limerick, it'd be Clare, and then it'd be like Kilkenny, Sheahan, or Galway for like the completion of the rest of the top 5 hurling moments of the decade.
Dean Rock and the GPS. Let's remind yourself of Dean Rock's last-minute free in 2017 to win All-Ireland.
You've had a lot thrown at you in your career. A GPS, I imagine, is a new thing. That's never happened before.
Look, I didn't actually notice anything at the time, Renton. So look, it's irrelevant, really, you know. And
did you feel something hitting off you? Did you realise what was going on at the time?
No, not at all. Look, you get the bit of verbals and stuff when you're kicking free kicks, and that's all natural. You know, everyone does that when a free taker's taking a free kick. It's the same with most kind of field sports like that in that sense. So look, I was just really concentrated on my own strike and the execution of my kick, and once I did that, I knew the ball would go over the bar.
When you found out afterwards what it was, did you think, wow, that's never happened before?
Look, just whatever, like, you know, just take it in your stride. As I said, it's irrelevant, so it's, you know, just there's no major issue with it.
No major issue with it. Playing down your chance of getting into the quarterfinals there, Dean.
Yeah, it's, you got to ham it up. Say,
oh God, it's shocking behaviour.
It exploded at my foot. It was.
But you know what? I had that tunnel vision.
One of those things that
I knew about it, but I had tunnel vision. That wouldn't make that much sense. But
too much of a high-performing athlete to be affected by something that's we obviously read into way more than he did. Something that kind of came out afterwards was like a strange thing. Did we notice it at the time?
I didn't.
I can't
at the game.
You were at the game. I was watching at home. And I can't quite remember. I can remember just like being like wildfire on social media afterwards. But it's not. We're not just distilling this down to Lee Keegan. It's also Dean Rock having the stones to be able to do that. After what was possibly one of the best All-Ireland finals of the decade as well.
This is on the list because it's the Dublin-Mayo rivalry, essentially.
And because of the Dublin-Mayo
This is the representative of that. It comes down to this one moment, but it's actually the whole time that Dublin were doing the 5 in a row and Mayo's curse and the knocking on the door, and which all the stuff is happening now is kind of a function of that.
And to be fair, the specific targeting by Lee Keegan and the targeting of Lee Keegan when it came to Diarmuid Connolly, when it came to perhaps the people in the media.
Dublin media.
Like, it was all brilliant. Like, it was just a distillation of the rivalry in that one photograph that we saw there. The GPS piece flying through the air at Gilroy.
And the Dubs being completely
cold,
oblivious to it.
Yeah, or...
In a way, they're kind of oblivious to the rivalry.
Training themselves.
They were pretty good, but, like, you know, they're just another team. Ultimately, it comes down to the Dubs being... I mean, Kerry, on the other hand, they're probably considered, because of all the history, the real rival. That's why they rebirthed that rivalry. Maybe makes things even more interesting for the Dublin footballers.
Yeah, maybe, and maybe the fact that they
sharpens them over the winter.
Had to go through 2 games, and maybe their new manager will actually look to stoke rivalries rather than make the players oblivious to them. Like, wouldn't it be terrifying to have this Dublin team with their current level of quality, but with the noughties level of fire? And by fire, I mean, like, rage.
90s level.
Okay, 90s level. I don't really remember. Like, there's a good bit of fire in the noughties Dubs as well. But if you combine those two things, like, obviously the argument there is...
It's all fake. And then in the noughties, it's all fake.
But the argument is there to be made that if we had that level of fire, it would take away from why the Dubs are so good. But if you managed to combine those two things, you would just have a megazord of a villain, I reckon.
But the 90s team was hard.
Yeah, they were hard and successful, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, they desperately underachieved as well, considering, but there was lots of great teams around. Anyway, I digress. Who's going to win this?
2010.
Make the case for both of them.
Well, I'm firmly in Lara Corbett's camp here. It's the ending of a 5 in a row quest that probably deserved
Dublin's
to be
5 in a row
achieved.
didn't even make it, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Do we have another Dublin? Is this the only Dublin one in the last 16?
No, we got 2011 coming up as well.
Yeah.
And I do think the achievement of, I think, the 2019 All-Ireland finals is probably below 2017 and certainly below 2011.
Who's the greatest Irish sports team of all time?
Oh, that is such a good question.
Just very briefly, right? Who are the contenders?
Well, Dublin, Kilkenny.
The soccer team in
Soccer
1990.
team, yeah.
Who else?
Rugby team in...
Which rugby team?
2009. 2009, let's go for 2009.
Leinster?
Oh no, Ireland.
Leinster?
Ireland Grand Slam, and then, of course, well, the greatest sports team this island has possibly ever seen ever in Leinster winning the 2018 Pro 14.
Well, that's Adrian Barry's argument, right?
Sorry, we're getting away from this. The argument is about these two things.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the Dublin team are like one of the greatest teams we've ever seen of all time. And they're not really properly represented in this last 16. So if you think that they should be, this is the one you want. You've got to vote for this.
No, 2011 is
Now,
what you
I
want.
probably think that Kilkenny should be.
This
but,
is going to be a humdinger of a clash. 47%, 53%. Early doors yet. Very early door yet.
Polls are live. It's actually gone back to 50-50 already.
The kind of mortality of an all-time great team is what makes
Lara's
the
hat-trick.
Moment. The hat-trick. The previous disappointment. The emotion at the full
effect at
time.
him.
The hurl effect at him. It was unexpected, and it was just pure drama. And you've made the point here in the past that this was a decade where hurling was obviously at its best ever, and this was the catalyst for it. That rivalry was the catalyst for it. Tipperary and Kilkenny driving themselves onwards.